even though Hell Tides and the Tree of Whispers will be important in the Wii of Whispers. The Diablo 4 endgame content, as we know so far, seems pretty promising. With the introduction of Nightmare Dungeons, Hell Tides, the Tree of Whispers, an upgraded Paragon board, and the gambling system, the game is giving us plenty of content to work with after the storyline, and allowing us to be able to even target farm specific gear to upgrade our builds even quicker. At the end of this video, if you're interested, we'll go over some details on how you can win yourself a free copy of Diablo 4, and some pretty interesting stuff that we've found online to be rumored in what will be new aesthetics that you can gain through KFC if you're interested. The first system that we'll go over is the most familiar one and the simplest one, is the gambling system. It's very similar to Diablo 3 in where you'll be able to do some sort of daily objectives to gain what are called opals, and these opals can then be used for gambling. You can collect these opals doing either daily or weekly objectives that they will have listed throughout the world, and you can complete these prior to beating the campaign and afterwards. You can use these opals to gamble for specific gear or weapons, and they all have different rate drops and at different costs. We didn't get a realistic gambling rate or drop rate of unique items in the beta version just because the developers had confirmed that they did increase the drop rates throughout that beta. It's also confirmed though that if you are a PvP player, you'll also have the opportunity to gain your own currency within the PvP system to then be able to gamble through those also, which potentially could have either different gear items or maybe even increased drop rates, knowing that the risks are a little bit higher. While playing PvP, if you die, you will drop this currency for other players to pick up, so it does become pretty competitive. If you decide to team up with a friend, then you can also do this to do a little 2v2 action. You definitely shouldn't use this as a primary source for target farming at the end game, just because there's better systems that are in place rather than just sitting at, like in Diablo 3, in town gambling with Kadala forever as she hands you garbage. It is confirmed though that in Diablo 4 you will have access to every single magic and rare item in the game to be able to farm for base items, and then you can go through and do Nightmare and Hell Tides to target farm specific unique items. The majority of what we're discussing, except for the gambling system, is unlocked once you reach World Tier 3 Nightmare mode, which can be done after you defeat your Capstone Dungeon. The Capstone Dungeon will be a difficult challenge in which Riker said even at level 45, the dungeons are set to level 50, but it's really kind of a gateway to test and make sure that your character and build is strong enough to enter into this Nightmare mode. When you enter into this Nightmare mode, you will unlock things like Hell Tides, Nightmare Dungeons, the Tree of Whispers, and what is potentially a lot more things that we just don't know about yet and that they haven't released to us. Starting out though, Hell Tides will be a regional activity that you can join in on, and this will occasionally happen throughout the day. A Hell Tide will take over a region where portals will open up and waves of enemies will come through it, and these enemies and bosses will have different strengths, weaknesses, and will vary from Helltide to Helltide to keep it interesting, in where you may have to team up with parties in order to do these. As you're playing these Helltides, you'll drop a currency that you can then use to go and open up specific Helltide chests that will be located and marked around the map. These multiple chests that will be marked around the map will be also dedicated to specific loot, gear, or weapons, so you can target farm for this specific gear, weapons, or whatever. So for example, if you're a sorcerer and there's a specific staff that you're looking for, you can go ahead and target farm, kill some enemies, some bosses, try to time it out, because these Helltides will have a time limit on it. So maybe you play for a few minutes through this Helltide knowing that you only have a total of 5 minutes or whatever it may be, collect your currency, then work your way towards the specific gear, loot, or chest that you're looking for, and then go target farm that staff. The next thing that we'll talk about is the Tree of Whispers. You'll see around the map that you will have these specific objectives called Whispers, and as you do these whispers, you'll collect material called Grim Favors, and it'll take a total of 10 of these to unlock a Tree of Whispers cache. When you open up this cache, you'll receive a abundance of either weapons, boots, whatever it is that you may select, crafting material, gold, and even have the potential to pick up some Nightmare Sigils, in which we'll discuss that here in just a little bit. Because that you will be doing a lot of traveling with this and having to go around doing all these objectives around the world map, it's important to make sure that you you are unlocking all of the fast travel waypoints and that you've got a good mount that you enjoy, knowing that you will be traveling around the map a lot. These nightmare sigils will be the next step in what seems to be probably the most important part of the end game content. As you unlock these caches and you start collecting sigils, these sigils and nightmare dungeons seem to be one of the most important part of the Diablo 4 endgame content from what we can understand. Even though Hell Tides and the Tree of Whispers will be important, and the Tree of Whispers will be important, as this will also link back to upgrading the Paragon board and glyphs, and we will discuss that in another video as it deserves its own. Nightmare dungeons will be difficult, challenging, and can level up in increase in difficulty as you do them more and more and more. When you locate a nightmare sigil, this nightmare sigil will be specific to one of the 150 dungeons located around the entire map. This sigil will unlock a more difficult challenge or level of that said dungeon. When you unlock that sigil and you release it, it will open up a portal or transform that dungeon into a nightmare dungeon. This nightmare dungeon will contain new monsters, a different layout, so nothing will ever be the same. In that, if you thought you knew a dungeon, you can scratch that, knowing that you're about to get brand new content with this nightmare dungeon. Each sigil will modify the dungeon in a specific way, whether it's that you receive maybe additional cooldown, but the monsters are more difficult in that they have higher lightning resistances or maybe have higher lightning damage output, and so not all sigils will work with all characters. As these affixes change from sigil to sigil, you'll be farming these nightmare sigils alone to find specific ones that fit your character the best. You can go through this nightmare dungeon with or without friends, and assuming that if you do it in a group, you'll have higher drop rates, so you will be enticed to probably do this in group settings or co-op. At the end of this nightmare dungeon, you'll be able to upgrade your nightmare sigil to a higher level to then unlock more loot, a harder dungeon, and continue to progress through the game with your character. As you do these and the nightmare dungeons get harder, it's going to force you to go back to do Hell Tides, work on the Tree of Whispers, and gain more experience through doing the Tree of Whispers and these daily objectives, world bosses, etc. Eventually, you'll get to a point where these nightmare sigils will only work if you're in even world tier number 4, the step above Nightmare World Tier 3, and as you go up in difficulty, these Nightmare Sigils will get a lot harder in the sense of that the World Tier 3 ones will allow you to die a total of 12 times in the dungeon. These Torment dungeons will only allow you to die 4 times in total, before the sigil will disappear from your loot completely. Upon completing this Nightmare Sigil in your dungeons, you'll be able to upgrade it, but you'll also be able to then upgrade your glyphs, in which these glyphs will then be inserted into your Paragon board, in which we'll go over those details in another video. If you picked up a sigil that you don't like, you can take it to the Oculus to actually have it salvaged to break it down into sigil dust or sigil powder. Then at that point, you can craft yourself a new sigil anywhere between levels 1 through 100, so then that way you can continue to then try to almost gamble for a new nightmare sigil that works best and complements your character. But these sigils don't stop at level 100. You can actually continue to level these sigils all the way up to level 150, similar to greater rifts in Diablo 3. Sigil. Lastly, if you're looking to get your hands on your own free copy of Diablo 4, we're doing a giveaway for all of our subscribers, and you can follow the link below to get signed up for your chance at the raffling. Also, if you're in need of some additional aesthetics, apparently the KFC contract with Blizzard is not quite over yet. And there's rumor online in that over the next coming weeks, you will be able to potentially go into a KFC to order either a specific sandwich or drink, which will give you a QR code that you can then scan linked to your Blizzard account to then unlock specific aesthetics for your mount or for your character. In all honesty, I don't know what the I'm going to do with a KFC chicken sandwich suit in Diablo 4, but if it ends up looking pretty cool, maybe we'll buy it. And it may not be specific to KFC, but I don't know. Seems a little weird to me. This is just an oddball way of marketing your video game that I don't think any of us have seen in a really long time. I'm Robert with TechBrewsGames. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts. If you're excited about the Diablo 4 endgame content or not. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything that I missed. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.